Hi, thanks for tuning in. Today I am talking about building an aviary for newly acquired peacocks. So I have not been someone who ever imagined, hi Charlie, hi buddy, that I would have peacocks. Um, But a friend of mine who's also kind of a nearby neighbor asked me if I would adopt her peacock pair, and I needed some time to think about where I would put them. They need an aviary. So, hi, buddy. Hi, what are you doing? Hi. So, unfortunately, during that kind of initial contemplation phase, the female that she had died suddenly of probably a spider bite or something. So, through the process, I was able to find, with her help, a breeder and found some pea chicks so that the male peacock, who's 5 years old, wouldn't be lonely. Um, and have been keeping them in a 10 by 10 kennel. The girls, they were little, now they're like maybe tripled in size, they're still babies, and acquired the male peacock because he was starting to get depressed. So the next stage was figuring out, hey buddy, Fozzie Bear, Fozzie Bear, hey buddy, hi Fozzie Bear, hi buddy, hi buddy, hi buddy. So the first step really was figuring out the location of where I wanted to put this and doing some research on what these looked like. So I also use kind of regular dimensions of things. Hi, buddy. What are you doing? It's Fozzie Bear. Yeah, Fozzie Bear. And looking at kind of existing infrastructure like trees where I could either attach or help kind of create habitat. So I decided to choose this site. The sun is starting to set, so it's a little hard to see, but you can see the posts. The center post is really for attaching cross beams so that the peacocks have like little landing areas, and then also at the top here that I have a place to attach the netting that's going to go across. So the first part of this process was, after identifying it, just to clear it out. It was a lot of baby saplings and just kind of gross little bushes that had been eaten up and by the donkeys, and wasn't really like a functional space. The other thing that I had to decide upon was how far I wanted to walk to be able to, interact with the peacocks, and also, feeding them and being close to water. And if I wanted to, see them on a regular basis. So I decided that closer to my studio space and like interacting with people in kind of like a walking area off to the side was going to be the best location, rather than on the opposite side of the property that, would take a while to get to, and they'd be far off on their own. And that way there's a way to just kind of enjoy the birds, on a daily basis. Okay, so the second step after, making all those decisions and doing the research was clearing out the space, was sinking all these posts. So luckily had a tractor with a little bit of a digger who helped kind of loosen up some of the dirt. And I just bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 12-foot posts that I could fit in the van at one time, thinking I would go back if I needed to. And what I ended up doing on the other side over there is just T-posts, because that side isn't going to be need it as tall for the top part. Um, so just out of guesstimation, um, I also am using kind of trees to be part of the boundary of what I'm doing. Hi, buddy. My friend Fozzie-the-bear. Hi, Bubby. Hi, buddy. So trees become part of the shape. Um, so I wanted the posts to kind of be in between, so I'd have a structure to nail things to. And then this material comes in rolls of 100 feet. And I was able to, without too much planning, make it almost exactly 100 feet. So you can see the end right there. I have about 1.5 feet left, not even a foot maybe, rolled up there. And then I had an extra piece that I hadn't measured, but I knew I was going to be able to fit it on this section here. And then I have a gate over there, okay, so the first thing is I put this part rolled, and this comes in a roll. So rolled this out and then attach it to the post with these, U-nails, which is easy. And then unroll and then keep going all the way around, right? So the second step was attaching this part, which is more the chicken wire. And I decided upon this material for a couple of reasons. Even though I know that this is going to get a little bit rusted and it's not super duper secure, I only have 2 hands and a ladder, right? So this stuff here is actually pretty heavy. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to unroll, lift, hold, nail with a hammer this material. So that was basically a big predictor of the second material. So this is more mesh netting. It's a little bit easier and lighter weight. So over there on that side, you can see that the second level is up. So I bought the 12-foot post just knowing the dimensions would be 5 feet for this lower section, and then I found the chicken wire that also is 5 feet, 5 or 6 feet, no, 60 inches, 5 feet, and in 50 feet sections, so it wouldn't be as heavy. So the problem with that side is I started attaching it and unrolling it at the same time. Oh my gosh, so that was kind of a pain in the butt. So you can kind of see over here that I've gotten to the end of that, and unrolling that end piece of chicken wire is really awkward because a machine, rolls that up and it's really tight. So what I decided to do for the next section, which is here, which is why you kind of see it kind of on the ground, is that I unrolled the whole thing and then I'm just attaching it lightly together here. So kind of like a skirt or like a under thing, what I'm basically doing is it's on the outside and I'm going to flip it up so that way I can be on the ladder and like lift this by myself. The other thing that I've decided to do as an experiment is because I don't have this framed out at the top, just because I don't have those materials right now and I'm doing this on a budget, and is that I threaded some rope through the chicken wire long enough so that down there I'm going to tie it to the tree, and here I'm going to tie it to the post, and then I have a second piece that I've threaded through here that again is going to tie the tree and tie the post. And that should help me lift it up and kind of secure it with only two hands, and then come back down the ladder and be able to nail it to the post and attach it like that a little bit tighter all the way around the perimeter. And then the next and final stage is going to be the netting on the top. So I found some netting online, and I think it's 15 by 15 sections, and then I'll do the same thing. Is I'm going to kind of thread and attach it to the top and then to the post over there. So that's kind of the second experiment that I'm not sure it's going to work or not. So I do have an extension ladder to try and do that kind of detail work. And then the final stage, once I get the peacocks in here, because they just need a bigger space to run around, is that over here, I'm going to put, like posts that go across, beams that go across, so that they have a couple of roosting spaces. And then inside, there's a juniper that's lying down that kind of got dug up. So there'll be a little bit of plantings and some things where they have some space for, shelter, and then there'll be a formal shelter in there. All in all, I'm not quite sure what the square footage in totality is going to be. I'm using 100 feet to go all the way around one side, and then I think that's probably about another 30 feet, and then just a little gate that I'm going to use as opening. So big experiment. Not sure how it's going to turn out or work. Oh, and then the final actual element is down here at the bottom. I just want to add some dirt all along the perimeter, just to kind of make sure that nobody can get out of here. Status update on the peacock aviary. And I thought that I would talk a little bit at this break about kind of the philosophy of the art of accidental adventure, and when life throws you challenges or opportunities, how do you approach them? And I never imagined or thought that I would ever want to own peacocks in this case, and it was an opportunity, a chance to kind of rescue an animal in need. But before I could jump into that and say yes, I really needed to figure out kind of all of the logistics and creating a space for them to live. So, I went about this in an organic way. It wasn't, I didn't get a piece of paper and pencil out and like plan the entire thing. I go by kind of what the materials are, and what are the standard dimensions, and what do I have available, and what can I kind of fit within the capabilities and the vehicle and all those kinds of things. So the first thing, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is trying to find a space for them, which I was able to have kind of cleared with a little bit of a tractor. So you can kind of see behind me some of the things. And it really was imagining kind of a perimeter first, and figuring out where the existing trees were, and how I could use some of the trees as posts, and then how many posts I would need kind of on the perimeter. So I did that first, and I was able to buy, I didn't know how many I would need. I didn't know how many I would need at the second stage, and how many would fit in the vehicle. So I bought, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I bought 5 4x4 12-foot pressure treated posts. So the beginning of this kind of tent canopy type of thing. Um, and then the perimeter has the posts and 100 feet of um, the fencing material that comes in a roll. So that was something that I was easily able to kind of do and then attach to the posts and the trees. And then the second level, which I've mentioned, which you can kind of see over there, is more the chicken wire. And I chose the chicken wire even though I know that eventually it gets a little bit rusted, it's not as strong. But as a second level, it was easier for me to lift um, and kind of so the material itself. So I bought 2 rolls of 50 foot so that I could kind of go around that perimeter. And then on this side, behind me, I had some T-posts and bought a few more extra T-posts, and I had some extended I already had some of the chain, or not, it's not chain link, some of the fencing material from a perimeter that I had put up somewhere else, so I had a length that I could use. And then figuring out kind of an entryway, and again, what are the standard things that are available. So for example, I got this as the gate. Once I did the perimeter, I found this netting material, which I also mentioned, online, and I bought 4 I think they're 30 by 30 sections. And I knew I wanted sections instead of a strip, just because, so that I could kind of create and attach them together, kind of like a canopy, like a circus tent. All right, so now I'm kind of at the end of this, where I knew that I only had certain lengths. So the 4 sections, I still had a kind of a gap in the middle. So I found this roll at Tractor Supply yesterday, which was 7 feet by 100 feet. So again, on a roll, it's a little bit easier to roll out. And now I'm at the final stage. So I know that I need additional supports inside here to kind of hold these sections up. And then eventually I'm going to create little cross beams so the peacocks have some resting areas mimicking trees. So the last stage here is to figure out the additional posts. So this is kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So I would really encourage you not to get discouraged about not being able to do something because of materials or the size or whatever. Really take these challenges and figure out, it's like a little puzzle piece. So this is how I brought the first batch home, and now I've got the second batch, but this time I bought 3 12 by 12 by 4 by 4 by 12s and 2 10-foot posts. So we were able to get it into the van, and I also, try to use my trips to do, multiple things. So of course you need concrete, and then these are for actually pottery studio and some other things. So I just been trying to put cinder blocks on my list, and just happened to be at the place that sold them. All right, so what the plan is, so this is just trying to explain, like, don't let either inexperience or space, or like materials, or lack of knowledge, or like, how do I transport that? So I've done this in 2 loads, and it is not something that I had to kind of stress out about, as far as the design of something, and how I have to measure everything a million times, and if the design of it doesn't look exactly the way that I had it on paper. That's not what this is. This is a more organic project that really speaks to the idea of experimenting and tinkering and kind of figuring out as you go. And it really feeds me that this idea of figuring a project and kind of you know the brain process of figuring out a puzzle. I really love puzzles, and a friend of mine's called me the puzzler. So this is kind of a giant puzzle in physical space, and the physical activity of, putting everything together, and every single, zip tie, right? And the process in which this takes. Now, I'm probably never gonna do this again, and you build something once and you might tinker and fix it. So I've really been spending a lot of time to make sure that the birds have a good space that they can live in, that I can also enjoy myself by watching them. All right, so I'm gonna finish digging. Just a little instructional piece to this video. First thing I did is post hole digger right here. Now these are not structural beams. There's going to be no like heavy supporting things. If I were doing a fence or something like that, I would probably need to go 2 feet down, depending on if it's a heavy freeze area. But I end up, the way that this works and how much distance it is that you can widen this, you can get probably about 1.5 feet down, which is perfect for this. It's not structural. So then I've got my concrete, and my trick is basically get the beam in, and it will almost naturally go up straight once you get it in. And I've got a little bubble thing on my phone if I need to check to make sure. But this trick usually gets things pretty plumb. So I don't even mix this. I'm going to let the moisture do its job. So I'm just going to pour this in. Okay, and then just kind of give it a little shove here and there. Gets the cement down. Need to go down on this side a little bit. Okay. All right, now in a day or two that'll be solid. If you want to, you can put dirt on top of it from the leftover stuff. And because I'm only attaching kind of the lightweight fencing material, I'm going to go ahead and get up on the ladder and do those 2 posts over there and this one, and then figure out where the rest of them go. So you can see kind of how I've got this piece attached, and I want to make sure that I can lift it up so they have room to walk on. the peacocks are in their new home. Here with Charlie. Gonna show you just the final aspect of the completed aviary. Here we go. Yay! So here's the final aviary. You can see the top netting, and it rained quite a bit the other day, so I put up this tarp that was kind of lying around. I think it's more of a tent thing. It has a hole in the middle, so it's just a temporary kind of shelter, partially for the rain until some of the little junipers start to grow up in there. Still needing to kind of clean up the section and cut a couple of the pieces in there. That's why the ladder is still inside. But, yay, peacocks! Looks like they like this little sunny spot right now, and you can see the gate here that I kind of haven't quite finished, but it's attached with a wire and opens up, and then I put the little mesh over top of it just to make it a little bit more secure so nothing can get in or out. But he looks super happy. Yay! Hi, buddy. You kind of see how big it is. Thanks for watching my video all about building an aviary, but the philosophy of the art of accidental adventure and kind of taking on projects in a more organic way rather than being steadfast and planning something and saying you can't do it because you don't have the time or the skill set. So if you subscribe, then you might see some other stories about taking on these challenges in the near future. Thanks. Have a great day.